Hello, Goat. My name is Scott. I go by Theoretical Bullshit, as you can probably tell. I don't know you. I haven't really talked to you directly. I've seen a few of your videos. I don't think that you have seen many of mine, if any. Um, but we have a few things in common. One is that we're both atheists, and the other is that we both had several exchanges with Jack, aka Together for Peace. I like Jack. Evidently you don't. And that's totally cool too. I dig that. I'm posting this video response though. This isn't going to be specifically about Jack. It's about a video that you did recently in which you asked the timeless proverbial question, who are you fooling, Christians? And you quote, what is it that you quoted? What was it? Corinthians. Yeah, you quoted Corinthians, and love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it keeps no record of wrongs, doesn't delight in evil, but rejoices in truth, and always perseveres, and that always protects. That's another one. And I want to talk briefly about that because you gotta know, man. Like, if you're gonna use that verse and ask that question, yes, right off the bat, anybody can look at that, and it's almost word for word or a concept for concept, like a contradiction to the characteristics and the actions attributed to the Judeo-Christian God, specifically in the Old Testament, but even in the New Testament too, with the keeping no record of wrongs thing. And so, obviously, God is not holding to this this notion of what love is, or at least what love should be. So, I mean, you have to know, though, the context is this verse isn't about the love that God gives. It's a prescription for human being to human being love, and I think any Christian, that will be their first response. I'm not so much interested in this question as the follow-up, which is why the double standard then? I mean, I'm not big on the love argument. In my time debating as an atheist, I've never really used, like, well, a God who loved us wouldn't do, because the word love gets sticky and it's subject to so many different definitions, and it's just a very subjective, intangible concept. But it has become more and more clear that Christianity, the more you read the Bible, I mean, has some very specific definitions of love. Here we have a definition of love that could not be more clear, except the idea is that it's supposed to be only from human to human. So the question is, what is love then? For a Christian, what is love when we speak of God loving mankind? What is that love? It is obviously not this. It is obviously not necessarily, keeping no record of wrongs. God's love apparently can and does keep record of wrongs. God's love apparently does not always protect, and so on and so forth. So, given that we have this very clear definition of what it is to love from human being to human being, we have a double standard. And you often hear the Christian say, the word love is actually used as, like, the definition for God. Well, what is God? God is love. What is love? Love is God. And then it gets circular, and then if you define each one of those terms as the other, then you lose all meaning altogether. But I want to address this, and I think atheists, or just non-Christians in general, I suppose, have to be able and ready to address the idea that, and this doesn't just apply to love, it could apply to all morality spoken of in the Bible, this idea that God does not have to hold to his own standards. The rules of conduct for us are different from the rules of conduct for God. And it's not, it doesn't seem to be about, the only other being or consciousness that an omnipotent, omniscient God would be engaging is us, is our kind of consciousness, our kind of being. So it's not like God has different interactions with different entities that do, so it's not like it's out of context. God's engagements are still having to do with us. So why does God have to treat us differently than we have to treat each other? And the only difference seems to be that God is bigger and better. Even the word better, I think, is subjective when we need to define that. But why is God not subject to the rules of conduct that seem perfectly reasonable for a human being to another human being? And I think as a Christian, for any Christian out there, that charge needs to be addressed. To answer the question, who are you fooling, Christians? They are fooling somebody, and they have to be. The talent lies in all religion in being able to fool oneself, in being able to say to yourself, I can justify these atrocities attributed to my God because God created me, therefore God has this right, or because God is more powerful than me, therefore God has this right. I think even the word right to a Christian is a silly word. Or actually, no, I think the word right to me is a silly word. And to a Christian, I think that's a really pivotal concept. But these are the questions that I think need to be asked. Not necessarily the accusatory, who are you fooling? And if we ask these questions, we just might start to get answers. And if we start to get answers, then we can ask more questions about those answers. And ultimately, the idea is to be able to point out and illustrate the absurdity of the Christian claims. All right, man. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you letting me throw my 2 cents in. I'll talk to you later. Peace out.